Beautiful morning for a change. Outside stripping the cabinet here on the Emerson AX-212. Up next we'll start working on the small veneer repair substrate that needs to be built back up. Still a little tweaking here on the cabinet here to get the remaining finish off, but very close. And here's a look at that missing substrate there in the center of the photo that I showed earlier. And here I'm just taking some of the figured maple, the piece that I received, and cutting that small section out, a little glue, clamping that in place. And I think there's a little difference there in the height of the piece of veneer, but I think I can feather it in to the original substrate material. Here you can see I'm just taking a razor. I'm going to cut off the broken piece of veneer here at an angle, and that will help hide the repair when we get to that point. And you can see here I got that to break loose, got a nice flush angled cut. And now I'm moving over to the other side here and just repeating the process, just so again we've got a nice clean cut at an angle to bump the new piece of veneer against. While waiting for the glue to set up here, you can see the substrate clamped up here. I took a piece of the maple veneer outside and just sprayed it about 4 or 5 times with some misty coats of toner lacquer. And the idea here is to better match the natural color of the wood. Now it's a little darker than the natural color, but I'll be sanding some of that toner lacquer back off. So the idea is when I cut this strip out in just a moment to go across the back piece that's missing, is to help blend the two pieces together. And here I am just making the cut using a razor, and the width of that strip here is about 1 millimeter wider than the strip that's on the radio, and I'll just file it or sand it back flush. And I was able to feather in that piece of substrate material there, just taking my finger, rubbing across it, making sure it's nice and flush. And here's a look at it here from the rear, and you can see it stacked up pretty well. One little piece of substrate there on the bottom that I'll need to throw some glue in just a bit to make sure that it's tidied up. But overall I'm pleased, and I think I'm ready now to apply this piece of veneer that I've cut. And here's just another dry fit just to do the alignment, and you can see I'm just a little off on the angle, and that's no big deal. Again, I just did this visually, and I'm going to just take some sandpaper here, run the edge over, and make sure that I've got this as straight as possible. Then the groove that you see there is still the correct width as well. You can see I got the angle now on the left side correct. I've got the piece of veneer here on the back clamped in place, and that allows me to turn the cabinet over and focus on this next cut. You can see my preliminary cut's just a little long and the angle's off just a bit, but this gives me the opportunity to clean it up as well. You can see how close I am to the desired angle. What I'm going to do is just use my new piece of veneer and just go right to the edge of it and recut and trim up the piece of substrate. So I'll still end up probably with a small gap that we'll look to fill in with one of the Mohawk Fil-Stiks here in just a moment. And with a nice angle now cut, you can see the two pieces are fairly close here. I've got a small gap, and my alignment's just a little off, so I'll true it up here, just loosening the clamp in the center. And everything here clamped in place for about 30 to 45 minutes, and I think it's stable enough now that I can remove the clamps here, and we can go ahead and start doing some very light sanding here. And here's a look at the new veneer I placed on the back. You can see the overhang I talked about 1 millimeter wider. I got a really good match here on this section. I'm just feathering that in with some sandpaper. using my finger to go back over it just to make sure I can't fill it. And then the other side here, I had that gap that I expected to have, but again, no big deal. We'll pull out the Fil-Stik here in just a moment and cover that flaw up. But the new piece of veneer here laid down really nice, and there's a close-up that you can see of some more work that we'll do, and then some sanding here on that bottom section to lighten it up, and I think we'll be able to match it with the new piece of veneer. To help minimize some of the Fil-Stik, I'm actually using just a little bit of the wood glue here on the small screwdriver, and then I had already mentioned I need to do some sanding in this area, so I'm just sanding some of the original finish off the veneer that's there, and I'm going to let some of the dust here kind of follow back into the track of the glue, and that'll help minimize the amount of the Fil-Stik that I need to use, and help hide the repair as well. And the time's come now to use the Fil-Stik, and you can see I grabbed one of the lighter Fil-Stiks, and I'm just applying it over the small crack there, the area or void that I'm just trying to hide. Just kind of going back and forth here, and then I'll take my fingers in just a moment and just kind of rub over the top of it, and I'll just continue this process here to get the desired look and feel. And here I'm just grabbing a little darker shade, and I'll put just a little on, and then I'm going to just rub it back off with my fingers as well, just trying to blend those two colors in together. And a little sanding here just to get some of the junk out of the groove there and make sure everything's nice and flush, and then I'll take a file as well and repeat this process. Now I'll look at the repaired area, and you really can't see the void there that I filled in with the wax sticks there unless you actually know where it was at or you're looking for it. And turning my attention to the other side here, a very small blemish, and you can see I'm just using the lighter Fil-Stik here, and then just rubbing it in here. And some close-ups here of the repairs. Just going to go around the edges, and you can see how everything blends in now. Let me flip it around here so we can look at the other side. Thanks for watching, folks.